Woman digging into her mother's passing uncovers her family's web of lies. Being adopted, Heather Robinson didn't know her biological parents. All she knew were vague details about her mother dying as a teenager. However, behind the incomplete story, there was a dark secret lurking, and when it finally came out, it would shatter the Robinsons' lives forever. Heather Robinson was only 15 years old when she uncovered the true nature of her existence. However, to understand the sordid series of events that led to her unusual predicament, she had to go back to the year 1984. All those years ago, a young couple by the name of Lisa and Carl Stassi were in love. They got married, and Lisa soon gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. However, things soon took a turn for the worse. In less than a year, frequent fights and general discontent had plagued the two lovers, leading them to divorce. Carl went back to the military, and Lisa took baby Tiffany with her to Hope House, a woman's shelter. While staying in the refuge, Lisa met a man named John Osborne. He took an interest in her and her infant child. Suddenly, things seemed to be looking up for the young mother. John moved the pair into a hotel room, even picking up the entire tab. But it wasn't enough for him. He was determined to help out even more, and so that is exactly what he did. John began making grand promises to Lisa, offering her not only housing but even a job, complete with daycare for Tiffany. He would pay for all of it. Some close to Lisa were suspicious of this strange caretaker's motive. Lisa's sister-in-law was wary of John. She believed he had to have an ulterior agenda that he wasn't sharing. Medical professionals were also looking into him, suspecting that he may have been involved in a sinister scheme. Alarm bells went off for staff at Truman Medical Center, where John asked to be connected with young white mothers. He claimed to be affiliated with the church, but they suspected he was a baby broker looking for infants to sell. Adding to concern was the fact that John was only interested in finding white babies, a common characteristic of such schemes. Lisa had no idea that, at the very moment she was getting closer to this man, experts were accusing him of grave crimes. On January 8, 1985, Lisa paid a visit to her sister-in-law Kathy's house. The next day, John arrived and took her, along with Tiffany, back to the hotel. This would be the last time the 19-year-old mom was seen. She was heard from once more, though. A few hours after leaving Kathy's house, Lisa called her mother-in-law Betty in tears. Through sobs, she told her she was worried that she didn't trust her to parent Tiffany and was trying to gain custody of her. Betty assured her this wasn't true, but what Lisa said next was even more alarming. She informed Betty that John had told her to sign blank documents. Then, settling down, Lisa said, "Here they come now," and the line went dead. And just like that, she was gone. Shortly after her disappearance, however, family members began receiving strange letters from Lisa, informing them that she'd run away to start a new life. Something was incredibly off, though. People close to her noted that the letters were typed, not handwritten. This was suspicious, as Lisa was not a good enough typist to have been able to write them by herself. Then one of Lisa's relatives discovered something even more concerning. The hotel room Lisa stayed in had indeed been paid for by someone named John, but the benefactor's last name was Robinson, not Osborne, as he had led everyone to believe. The weeks stretched on, and still no one had heard from Lisa. Then finally, 2 months after her disappearance, John spoke to the police. He told them that Lisa was alive and well and had found a babysitting job in an undisclosed location. Lisa's family longed to know what had happened to her, but they wouldn't receive any closure until a break in the case years later. In 2000, John Robinson was convicted of sexual assault as well as of stealing a woman's sex toys. This was enough to allow law enforcement to search John's house. What they uncovered was an unholy sight, straight out of a horror movie. Hidden in the compound were the remains of 2 women. Next, they tackled the killer's storage unit. To their shock and horror, police found the bodies of 3 more women that John had murdered. However, there was still no sign of Lisa Stasi. Unfortunately, although she was presumed dead, there would be no solid answers for Lisa's family in terms of what truly happened to her. They would, however, finally discover what had become of her daughter, Tiffany. For Tiffany's new identity was now Heather Robinson. After presumably killing her mother, John gave the infant to his brother and his wife, who had been looking to adopt a baby. The two had no idea the adoption wasn't completely legit. While it was obviously heartbreaking to discover that her family was not at all who she thought they were, knowing the cruel fate that had befallen her biological mom also filled Heather/Tiffany with a sense of injustice. She knew she had to avenge her late mother. This is why Robinson founded the Lisa Stasi Effect, a group dedicated to helping others who survived trauma, violent crimes, or simply feel like they don't belong. She wanted to right the many wrongs committed in family law for generations. She knew there were victims like herself who never got any justice.